I'd like to start by saying Assalamu alaikum to everyone here. Now yesterday we discussed very briefly the character of Hazrat Imam Hussain and in quite some detail the character of Yazeed the tyrant. And we sort of were discussing in, again, a decent amount of detail the controversy which is somewhat against him, somewhat for him, but we ultimately decided that our belief is that we are totally against him and that he was in fact a tyrant. That leads us nicely on to today, which is day 5, and we shall be embarking on the background to the Battle of Karbala. So I'll be passing on to you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم ومن والاه أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Brothers, we've been really through. Alhamdulillah, today is like it's quite quickly, it's the 5th day. Time's gone very quickly. May Allah reward our sitting for the purpose of seeking His reward, subhanahu wa jalla jalaluhu. And may Allah give us the best in this world and the next world. Yesterday we discussed two personalities, two characters, Yazeed and Yazeed, who Yazeed was, and Imam Hussain RadiAllahu Anhu. One of the reasons why I did not spend enough time yesterday speaking about the character of Imam Hussain, to be honest, we don't really need to, because he is so universally accepted by everyone. There's no need for me. One of the reasons why I never spoke in detail or did not give enough time to Imam Hussain wasn't because I was being disrespectful, a'udhu billah, may Allah forbid, and may Allah never allow us to be in that state. But one of the reasons was because he's universally accepted, has a great personality. So someone who is as great as him, obviously he deserves all the time. We should spend the full 10 days just speaking about his fadail. But one of the reasons why we never did that was simply because I wanted to spend as much time as possible on Yazeed and speaking about Yazeed and who he was and so forth. Today is about the background of Karbala, and tomorrow we start the official journey, where tomorrow we basically start from the 60th at Hijri, 60 after Hijri, when Walid bin Utbah, the governor of Medina, receives a letter from Yazeed from Damascus, informing him that Muawiya radiallahu anhu has passed away, and we will discuss that tomorrow. Today I want to discuss 4 areas regarding the background to Karbala. Number 1, I want to discuss the martyrdom, briefly the martyrdom of Imam Ali, or Mawla Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu warda. Why did Sayyidina Ali and what was the episodes or events surrounding his honorable martyrdom, number 1. I want to then discuss briefly how Imam Hassan became the leader. What was the circumstances on Imam Hassan radiallahu anhu, al-Hassan al-Mujtaba, the eldest son of the Prophet, the eldest son of Sayyidina Ali and Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha, the first male grandson of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And just for those who are not aware, Imam Hassan, by his appearances, according to the hadith which is mentioned in Bukhari, that from his head up to the middle of his body, he resembled the Prophet the most. And Imam Hussain resembled the Prophet from the middle of his body to his honorable feet. Imam Hussain resembled the Prophet in his courage, in his ferocity, in his adab and so forth. But in the physical aspect, Imam Hassan was really an identical, if you want to call it, picture of the Prophet ﷺ. That is why many Sahaba, when people would come to him and say, can you tell us what did the Prophet look like? And they would just say, just look at that. Do you see that man? Look at him. That is how and when they looked at him, that was Imam Hassan. So that is the beauty of him. So number 2 is Imam Hassan. Number 3, we want to discuss the sulh, the peace treaty between Muawiya and Imam Hassan. What was that peace treaty? What was the terms of that treaty? And why did Imam Hassan abdicate his leadership? Why did he give up for? What was the reason for that? And then we want to talk about the 4th, the appointment has Yazeed as the next leader? Why Muawiya radiallahu anhu appointed his son, even though his son was a fasiq and a fajr? Why was he appointed? So we want to look at that. Now, as we've said, the martyrdom or the fitna that arose predominantly was during the middle realm of Sayyidina Uthman's leadership, and then his martyrdom happened. Now what we learn is after Sayyidina Uthman was martyred, the biggest objection to the reason why many people, amongst them, for example at that time Aisha, Talha, Zubair and Muawiya Ridwanullah alayhim ajma'in, that they refused to give allegiance, bay'ah to Sayyidina Ali, was under the pretext that they wanted to seek revenge for the death of Uthman radiallahu anhu warda. Sayyidina Ali was on his perspective, or his view was that before we seek revenge, what we need to do is calm the situation and the fitna that has arisen, deal with everything in its own proportion. That was the view of Sayyidina Ali karamallahu ta'ala wajhul kareem. Eventually what happened after the first, there are three main battles in the life of Sayyidina Ali that are really three testing moments in his life as a leader. One of the things we find about Sayyidina Ali, one of the things that we do find is that as a leader, has the Prophet prophesied in the hadith, he said, "Oh Ali, I fear how my ummah will treat you after I leave." The Prophet made it very clear, "Oh Ali, I fear how my ummah will treat you." That is why there's a hadith in Bukhari, and it's mentioned certainly in Muslim Sharif. The Prophet said, "La yuhibbuka illa al-mu'min wa la yubghiduka illa al-munafiq." Aw kama qala alayhi salam. The Prophet said, "Oh Ali, only a mu'min will love you, not a Muslim." The Prophet said, "La yuhibbuka illa mu'min," only a believer. Because why? Every Muslim is not a mu'min, but every mu'min is a Muslim. Al-mu'min is the one who accepts Allah. He's a God-fearing person. There's a difference between Muslim and mu'min. So the Prophet very explicitly, or very uniquely should we say, said to Sayyidina Ali that only the mu'min will love you, the believer. And then he said what? That only the hypocrite will hate you. So Hudayfa bin Yaman, one of the great Sahabi, and he is that Sahabi who knew the names of the munafiqeen in Medina. So Umar radiallahu anhu warda used to say that whenever someone had passed away, I would look at Hudayfa, and if Hudayfa read the janazah prayer, if Hudayfa went to pray the prayer of such a person, then I would pray, if not that I would avoid it. Hudayfa himself narrates a hadith and says, which is found in many narrations, he says that whenever I wanted to find out who a munafiq was in Medina, all I would do is I would mention the name of Ali in front of them. He said I would mention the name of Mawla Ali, and if his face changed, like his blood pressure is gone up, or something's happened, he said I knew that that man is a munafiq and we need to avoid him. So these were the signs. And then the Prophet also said, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, he said looking at the face of Ali is a form of ibadah. Looking at his face. And then the Prophet said also, what about people like us who did not have the opportunity to look at the beautiful face of Sayyidina Ali and the Sahaba? The Prophet said, in your majlis, in your gatherings, mention the name of Ali, for Allah's barakah will be there, for Allah's blessings will be there. That is the reason why you see the real scholars of Ahle Sunnah Wal Jammah, whenever they have any program, if it's about Umar, they always add Sayyidina Ali, they always bring Sayyidina Ali into it. Whatever, they may be speaking about something that has nothing to do with Sayyidina Ali, but somehow they bring Sayyidina Ali into the conversation. Why? Just for the barakah, the blessings, and so forth. So we learned, and let's go quickly through this. Muawiya radiallahu anhu warda refused to give the bay'ah. Some people said the reason behind that was that he wanted the leadership for himself. There's many conflicting narrations. Some support that view, some deny that view. Wallahu alam. And we don't want to get in the game of blaming, getting in the game of saying that he wanted power, he never wanted power. The reality is the facts and historical facts that are available, they speak louder than actions than themselves. However, the reality is that he refused to give bay'ah. And the Prophet, and not giving bay'ah allegiance to the leader is haram. There is no disagreement that avoiding to give the allegiance to Sayyidina Ali is not acceptable in Islam. So one of the most, or the second, or the first, for example, major event of the battles during the leadership of Ali was the Battle of the Camel Jamal, which was the battle between the two armies of Aisha on one side, Talha Zubair, and Ali on the other side. We discussed it the other day. And the second battle was the Battle of Siffin, which is a place, Siffin is near the Euphrates, near Al-Raqqa in Iraq, where today ISIS has their head office. You know, ISIS is lunatic movement. And you know, one thing I was reading today, which I'll share with you, if you pay attention to who the Khawarij were originally, and look at their behavior during the time of Sayyidina Ali, it really represents the behavior of these people. It's identical, and it's quite unique, and we'll discuss it when we come across Abdullah bin Khabbab bin Arad radiallahu anhuma, when he was made shaheed. We'll discuss that. So Sayyidina Ali then sends a letter saying to Muawiya that I dispose you of the leadership in Syria. Why? The Muslim world had two areas. You had the Arabian Peninsula, okay, that was fully controlled by Sayyidina Ali. Makkah, Medina, Yemen and so forth. Yemen were true followers of Sayyidina Ali. Till this day, the Yemeni people, they loved Ahlul Bayt. Till this day, it's known, it's in their blood. One of the reasons for that is the Prophet prayed for them. And secondly, Sayyidina Ali was a judge and a governor during the time of the Prophet, some period. And then you had Sham. Not today, Sham today people call Syria. It's not Syria. Sham originally consists of what we call 4 countries today: Palestine, Jordan, Syria and Lebanon. These 4 countries is the area of Sham. That was what we call an area which was originally controlled by the Byzantine Empire. It was extremely wealthy. The empire, the part of the Muslim world that was controlled by Sayyidina Ali, economically was not as strong as that which was controlled by Muawiya. Muawiya controlled what you could call the crown jewels of the Muslim world. Had a lot of wealth, a lot of money, a lot of power. So he controlled a vast area. And you can see that you can look at the the geography yourself. Syria, Jordan, Palestine and Lebanon. That's a very large area to control. He had full control. And the other area which he controlled was Egypt. Egypt was under his control. So when Sayyidina Ali sent this letter saying that I removed it, he ignored it. Sayyidina Ali then sent another of his representatives to send him, and Muawiya confronted him with an army of 400 people and said that if you don't go back, I'm going to kill you. So go back to Ali. So he went back to Sayyidina Ali. Sayyidina Ali then galvanized his advisors. Amongst them were people like Ammar bin Yasir. Ammar bin Yasir radiallahu anhuma, I should say really, because his father was the first martyr of Islam. Who is Ammar bin Yasir? Ammar bin Yasir, his mother and father were the first martyrs of Islam. And when they were being tortured for not giving up Islam, the Prophet came past them and said, have sabr, have patience, O family of Yasir, for Jannah is your reward. And Sumayya, salamullah alayha, the mother of Ammar, this great woman who is the first female martyr of Islam, she says, Ya Rasulullah, wallah, I see Jannah right now. That is the iman of the Sahaba, that's how strong. And Ammar bin Yasir has narrated by many of the ulama, he was like the right hand arm of Ali. Sayyidina Ali's right hand arm. That is how they were best friends. They grew up together, they loved each other, they were extremely close. And also Ammar bin Yasir was his most senior and trusted advisor. So he sits with his advisor and says, what should we do? This is a fitna, a tribulation. And Ammar bin Yasir and many of the Sahaba said, announce jihad against Muawiya. Announce a war. We have to fight him. Either he gives the bay'ah to you. If he refuses to give bay'ah to him, we fight him. And Ali says, fine. Ali radiallahu anhu then galvanizes an army. Again, an army. His army consists of approximately, on and off, there's different narrations. Some say 40,000, some say 50,000. The most authentic narrations about 60,000 on and off. That is the amount of soldiers Sayyidina Ali could galvanize. Why? Because the vast majority of the support that Sayyidina Ali had Sayyidina Ali moved his headquarters. One of the things that Sayyidina Ali did when he became the leader was what? He was the first man to move the headquarters of the Islamic lands from Medina to Kufa. He moved it. And the reason for that, he said, was that he didn't want Medina Sharif to be attacked by the enemies of Islam. That's the reason. On the other hand, Muawiya, obviously he was a governor for over 20 years during the time. He was a governor from the time of Umar bin al-Khattab radiallahu anhu appointed him. So he had a lot of power and strength. He galvanized 120,000 soldiers. So literally double the size of the army of Ali. The difference in quality is that the vast majority of the people that supported the army of Muawiya, they were new Muslims. They were where Islam went to as da'wah. They converted to Islam, but they didn't realize the fadail and the greatness of who these people were, the Sahaba. Whereas Sayyidina Ali, his army, this is what he consisted of. His army ultimately consisted of 70 members of the Sahaba from Badr. From Badr. And remember, what do we know from Badr? The Sahaba from Badr, the Prophet said in the Hadith, he says they have a greater maqam than all of the Muslims that come after them, even the Sahaba. And who did he have? He had 70 members from Hudaybiyah. The ones who gave Bayt Ridwan, the ones who gave allegiance at the hand of Sayyidina Ali under the tree. Sorry, not Sayyidina Ali, Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam under the tree. And what did he also have? Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu on and off approximately 400 Sahaba or 400 offspring of the Sahaba. So a large amount, a large portion of his army were not any people, they were very God-fearing people. We are talking like people like Salman al-Farsi, Abu Dhar al-Ghaffari. You know, we're talking about senior Sahaba were with him from Badr, not small. We have people like Ammar bin Yasir. Ammar is not a small man. Ammar is radiallahu anhu warda. It is agreement by the ulama. Al-Dhahabi says Ammar is one of the most senior of the Sahaba in maqam, in superiority, and also what is he? He is one of the most senior in ilm, knowledge. He was amongst the mujtahideen. So both armies now face each other. And like I said to you, he has Ammar. Why is Ammar bin Yasir so important for this battle? Because one day Ammar was sitting and the Prophet came to him sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, "Oh Ammar bin Yasir, you will be murdered by the rebels. You will be murdered by those, you will be killed by the rebels." Because some people said Ammar will die this way. The Prophet said, "No, Ammar, you will die. Ammar bin Yasir, you will be..." This is another proof of the mu'jizat of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he knew the unseen, that he foretold the future. Okay? And he said, "What? Oh Ammar, you will be martyred, you will be shaheed by whom? By the rebels." Number one. Number two, the Prophet said in another hadith, he said that the last thing you will drink on this earth, Ammar, will be milk. The last thing you will drink on this earth will be what? Milk. And based on this hadith or these hadith, the ulama are in agreement, the scholars are in unanimous agreement that whatever happened, the people that were on haqq were the army of Sayyidina Ali. The ulama are clear, it's a clear-cut view. There isn't a dispute amongst the ulama. The ulama all agree. There is an agreement of all the scholars that say that the army that was on the truth was the army of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu warda. And not a single scholar said otherwise, apart from a handful of scholars who predominantly had hatred towards the Ahlul Bayt, or had some type of narrow-mindedness towards Sayyidina. Even Ibn Khaldun, and we know Ibn Khaldun, one of the famous historians, even though Ibn Khaldun isn't pro-Ali. Ibn Khaldun is a very, Hazrat has written this, and many ulama have written. In fact, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani really harshly attacks Ibn Khaldun. If you look at the works of Ibn Hajar goes after him really harshly. And when they asked him why did he do that, he said, "Oh, he used to hate Ali. He used to have hatred." Even Ibn Khaldun, a person who wasn't a supporter, a writer who supported Sayyidina Ali, a'udhu billah, even he admitted and said that the truth was with Ali. So that's universally accepted. All the mutakallimin ulama agree that it doesn't matter what happens, the truth was Sayyidina Ali. So when these two people met each other, they began to fight. The two armies began to fight. And Sayyidina Ali, basically, he arranged his army in such a way that on one side, one cavalry was controlled by Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anhu. So you can see the type of personalities he has. On the other hand, Muawiya's army predominantly, the most renowned of them, one was Mughira. Mughira was a Sahabi radiallahu anhu. He was about 6 years old when the Prophet passed away. And the other one who was more predominantly well known, more renowned was Amr bin As radiallahu anhu, who was the governor of Egypt. And we all know who he is. He's the one that went after the Muslims when the Muslims went to Abyssinia, the first journey. And he went to represent Quraysh to bring them back. So Muawiya in his front line, he never had renowned people. He had strong people, but he never had someone comparable to the army of Ali. Ali's front line was Sahaba. And not just any Sahaba, these were Badri Sahabas. These were senior Sahaba. And this is an indication, the ulama said, this is an indication of the truthfulness on the side of Ali. Because those Sahaba would have not joined Ali. They would have not supported him if he was not on haq, but they supported him. So this is what happened. During that battle, that infamous battle, Ammar bin Yasir is martyred. How is he martyred? Ammar bin Yasir, he charges to the opposition, the rebels, and he starts fighting like a lion. Remember, he's about, one narration says he's 90 years old. He's an older man, he's not a young man. So he marches and he starts fighting. Eventually becomes extremely thirsty, he can't find water, he comes back. He then tells his people, give me water, find me some water. And they couldn't find any water, so they bought him what? They bought him milk. When they bought him milk and he drank the milk, that's when something, Ammar bin Yasir says, he said, I jumped up. The narration says he jumped, and he says, Wallahi, I remember the hadith of the Prophet. He says, may Allah praise the Prophet, for he spoke the truth. And whatever he said happened. What was the hadith? The hadith was that the last thing that you would drink. So Ammar bin Yasir knew that my death is coming now. So Ammar bin Yasir, what did he do? He marched and he charged into the people. Amr bin As now sees Ammar bin Yasir fighting, and he's fighting on the opposition. And he sees the courage of this old man, 90 years old. Eventually what happened, Ammar bin Yasir is martyred. When he is martyred, immediately Ammar bin Yasir remembers the hadith. That the Prophet said what? Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He said that Ammar, you will be martyred, you will be killed by the rebels. When he said this physically shocked Amr bin As. Physically had an effect. So he goes to Muawiya radiallahu anhu, and he enters into the gathering, which is a private quarters of Muawiya. Muawiya is the head of the army. He says to Muawiya, he says, have you heard what's happened? First he comes in and he's visibly shocked. Muawiya says, what's up with you? Collect yourself. One narration says, Muawiya says, be a man, what's up with you? And he says, haven't you heard Ammar bin Yasir has been martyred, has been made a shaheed. Muawiya turns around and says, this is exactly what he said. He says, so what? Okay, this is a battle, obviously people will die. He says, don't you remember the hadith of the Prophet? The Prophet said that the people that will kill Ammar bin Yasir will be those people who are rebels, who are sinful people. Muawiya now says to Ammar bin Yasir, he says, shut up. That's exactly what he says. He said, be quiet. He says, make sure the people don't hear what you just said, because it's going to demoralize that side of the army. Muawiya then turns around radiallahu anhu wardan. He says what? Again, I'm trying to be as factually impartial as possible. He turns around and he says to Ammar bin Yasir, we never killed him. The one who killed him was Ali. The one who brought him out to the fight. The one who brought him out to have the fight, the battle. Well, been martyred. Sorry, he said to Amr bin As, thank you for correcting that. Muawiya turns to Amr bin As and says to him that we never killed Ammar bin Yasir radiallahu anhu. We have no, our hand is clean. Why? The one who killed him was Ali. Ali brought him out. Ali was the one who brought him to the battlefield, and Ali is responsible for his death. When he said this, some of the Sahaba then remarked and said that if Ali is responsible for killing Ammar bin Yasir, then the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is responsible for killing Hamza when he took him to Badr. It was a rebuttal. It was, and when the Sahabi said that, that is when all of those people who were present there were not able to reply to anything. Hudayfa bin Yamam, one of the great Sahabi, he sent two of his sons, Sa'id and Safwan, both fought and were martyred in that battle. And Hudayfa bin Yamam, his last wish before he passed away was what? He says, I wish two of my sons become martyred fighting for Ali. He had an immense love for Sayyidina Ali. And another person that was martyred in that battle was the famous wali, the well-known wali Uwais al-Qarni, RadiAllahu Anhu, the great wali from Yemen. We all know the story of Uwais al-Qarni. He was the man who went to Medina to meet the Prophet. He never met him and he went back. Again, we don't want to go through his whole life, but he's a, you can do your own research on him. Uwais al-Qarni, very famous tabi'i. He was martyred on that battle. When Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu warda, when he saw all of the killing of these senior people, it disturbed him. It had an effect. So Sayyidina Ali called his men back and he sent a letter to Muawiya, a message to Muawiya. He says, we are both lost men from both sides. Why don't we do this, have a one-to-one, you and me? Why don't you and me come? Because one-to-one combat, let's have it. You and me. Whoever wins that one-to-one, the haqq will be with him. Now, when Muawiya got that, there was no way Muawiya was going to fight Sayyidina Ali. Because Sayyidina Ali is the one with single hand, he ripped the door of Khaybar out. The door of Khaybar. لِيُعْتِيَنَّا رَايَةٌ غَدًّا رَجُلٌ يَفْتَحُ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ يَدَيْهِ. The Prophet said. The Prophet gave the banner to that man in whose hand Allah will give victory. He loves Allah and he loves the messenger. He loves Allah and he loves the messenger of Allah. And Allah and the messenger love him. One man ripped the door of Khaybar by himself. The Sahaba then said what? The Sahaba said when we attempted to pick up that door, he said 40 of us men were unable to pick it. That is the strength of Sayyidina Ali. So when Muawiya saw this message that he wanted a one-to-one combat, he said there's no way I'm going to fight. Now Sayyidina Ali calls his generals back and he re-envisages how to attack. The next day they fight. The Muslims on the side, Bayt, quiet please. Yes, now be quiet please. Thank you. The next day when they come to fight, the Muslims the supporters of Sayyidina Ali overrun the supporters or the Syrian people. To such an extent they're falling now. To such an extent that some of the armies of the Muslims could actually see Muawiya radiallahu anhu and they were actually attempting to go to attack him. And they were very, very close to attack Muawiya radiallahu anhu. Extremely close. And Amr bin As was one of them. So what happened was when they did this, Muawiya radiallahu anhu played a very technical game here to win over the battle, to stop the battle. He realized what? Morally, the moral was not with him. The people were against him on the battle, the morale of the people. The battle was going against him. And eventually he realized that I'm going to lose this battle. I need to do something to change it. So what did he do? Prior to the battle, he told his soldiers to put pages of the Quran onto the arrows and to hold it up and to put it onto their bows and to put it onto their spears. This was an indication for what? That stop fighting. We want to judge according to the Quran and the Sunnah. We want to have arbitration. We want to have a peace. We want to resolve the fitna. When Sayyidina Ali saw this, Sayyidina Ali initially refused to continue to stop fighting. And Ali said what? One of the problems that Sayyidina Ali had on his side was that his soldiers were treacherous people. The people that supported him were not loyal to him, unfortunately. If you gave them money, you gave them dunya, they would sell him out. And the thing was, Sayyidina Ali did not behave in a way which was unethical. So he never bribed people. That is why the Orientalists meant something, the Orientalist, Gibson says something quite unique. He says when you look at two leaderships of Muawiya and Ali, he says by far the one who was truthful and most other just was Ali. He never entered into any type of types of behavior which was unethical. Muawiya was a tactical person, so he used everything at his disposal to win the battle. That's what happens in war. You buy people out. That is what America did to Saddam Hussein's army. So even before America got to Baghdad, it fell. Why? Because all of the generals have been bought out. It's an old trick in war. So when this happens, Sayyidina Ali then refuses to speak to them. And eventually what happened, Sayyidina Ali is forced by his own people. His own people take the sword out and said, if you don't stop it, we're going to kill you. Because one of Sayyidina Ali's supporters, his advisor, his name, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, I just left my head. He was one of his main, he was his chief of staff, if you want to call it, Sayyidina Ali's chief of staff. He was basically fighting, and he was the one that was extremely close to attacking Muawiya. So when Sayyidina Ali gave him the signal, come back, he refused to. But when Sayyidina Ali gave him a signal of duress, he realized something had happened. He came back and he realized, Sayyidina Ali said, how can I fight someone when I can't even trust my own people? I can't even trust the people with me. How can I fight? Eventually what happened, there was a peace treaty that was agreed. Now, the treaty was what? When Sayyidina Ali agreed to have peace with them, there were some people amongst the army of Sayyidina Ali who were the Khawarij. Khawarij are those people who are a sect in Islam, who believe in calling other Muslims non-Muslims. These people turned around. Initially what they said prior to the battle was that Muawiya was a non-Muslim for rising against Ali. When Ali then announced that I'm going to have a peace treaty to resolve this fitna, they then turned around and said, oh, you Ali, you are a kafir too. And then he attacked Sayyidina Ali. That is the rise of where the Khawarij actually come from. Now when they arrive back in Kufa, many people are still insisting. Many people are still insisting to Ali, you did the wrong thing, we have to fight, let's fight. Don't agree to the peace treaty. What was the treaty? The treaty was, on their side, Muawiya sent Amr bin As as his representative to negotiate. And Ali radiallahu anhu initially sent Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anhuma. But the other side refused to do peace with him. So Sayyidina Ali was forced to send Abu Musa al-Ash'ari radiallahu anhu. And Abu Musa al-Ash'ari was senior in age. Amr bin As was a tactical person. He was used to peace. He was used to negotiations. Because why? Before Islam, he was known to be a very shrewd businessman. He was a man who knew how to speak to people. He knew how to turn around the events and bring it to his advantage. So both agreed to meet 6 months after this battle. So that was the agreement. They would sit together and they would resolve the fitna, they would resolve the problem between Muawiya and Ali radiallahu anhu. Back in Kufa, these people who were Sayyidina Ali's students and they were ulama, they weren't illiterate people, they were insisting and they were saying to Sayyidina Ali that we cannot have peace with Muawiya, you must fight, keep fighting. Ali turned around and said to him, I can't fight them because I've given my word. Let's wait for the peace treaty to take place, the sulh. After that arbitration, then we will look at what we can do. At one moment they refused, and at one moment 12,000 of them left the gathering of Sayyidina Ali. 12,000 of them at one time turned. These were his students, so-called what you call murids, followers. At one time 12,000 of them turned around and said, you are a non-Muslim now, Ali, a'udhu billah. And this is proven in the books, and they left. So now Sayyidina Ali has another fitna. On one side he's trying to fight Muawiya to bring peace to the Muslim world. Now on the other side he has the Khawarij now to fight. So he's fighting two people. So let's talk briefly, very quickly about this peace treaty. What was it about? Let me take that word back. It's more of arbitration between two parties, and that is the word that's used in the narrations. Now, what do two of these individuals do? Amr bin As is representing Muawiya's side, and Abu Musa al-Ash'ari is representing the side of Ali radiallahu anhu. They meet in a place that was agreed at an appointed time. For hours upon hours and days upon days they are debating amongst each other. Amr bin As is saying the fitna is because of Ali. He needs to give up his leadership, and and so forth. And Abu Musa al-Ash'ari is saying no, it's not because of that, it's because of these reasons. Eventually both of them agreed to a point. What was the point? What was the agreement? The agreement was that both Hazrat Ali and Muawiya would abdicate and resign from their position of power. They would resign from their position of power, and leadership would go to Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, or another Sahabi. Both of them would resign. Both agreed with that. Remember, a second point, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari had no authority to do that. But Sayyidina Ali never sent him to talk about his leadership. That is why when this news got back to Sayyidina Ali just dismissed it and dismissed Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. And from that time, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari RadiAllahu Anhu, he moved and he went to Yemen and spent the last days of his life in Yemen. So when this happened, both of them said, we need to make a public announcement. So Amr bin As turns around to Abu Musa al-Ash'ari and says, you make the announcement first, then I will make my announcement. Because he was very, mashallah, and both of Sahaba Ridwanullah alayhim ajma'in, so we don't want to use a word which is disrespectful, but Amr bin As was a player, if you want to call it. He was a tactical man. He knew how to, because this is his field. What was his job before Islam? He was official spokesman. He was a foreign minister, if you want to come to Quraysh. He used to represent the Quraysh in foreign lands. So Abu Musa al-Ash'ari agreed, said, yes, I'll speak first, and then you. When they go out, Ibn Abbas says, don't do this. Ibn Abbas says to Abu Musa al-Ash'ari that this man is more smarter than you, and he'll outwit you. Don't do this, I'm telling you now. And Abu Musa al-Ash'ari said, no, he can't do anything. Let's leave it. I've agreed. He said, khair. So now Abu Musa gets up, and what does he say? Abu Musa says, to end the fitna, Ali is going to resign, even though he had no authority to do that. And then he sat down. Amr bin As comes up and says, I agree with everything that my brother Abu Musa al-Ash'ari says, that Ali has to give up, and we all then give bayat to Muawiya. You see the game? I agree with everything that he said, but we also agree that Muawiya is the new leader. When he says this, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari turns and says, I never said that, you're a liar. And the narration that Tabari mentions, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari says something which I don't want to repeat, because it's disrespectful for me to say them for a Sahabi. For Sahabi to say the Muslim side is another issue. But for me it's not in my place to do that. So the peace treaty, the arbitration fails. The outcome is rejected. And they come back to Sayyidina Ali, and they tell Sayyidina Ali what happened. And Sayyidina Ali said, oh Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, you should know the cleverness. And he said a few more things about Amr bin As, which I don't want to repeat. So the outcome of that was what? It failed. Sayyidina Ali then galvanized an army again, so we need to still fight. But what happened now was Sayyidina Ali is facing a third major fitna in his area. The first battle was the battle of what? Camels. The second was Siffin against Muawiya. Okay? And the third battle now is the battle that Sayyidina Ali fights on the 38th of Muharram. Ali marches towards fighting against the Khawarij. He's going to fight against the Khawarij. These were those people which we call the Battle of Nahrawan. It's called the Battle of Nahrawan. These three are the three infamous battles that took place between the leadership of Ali. And they had a massive effect on the supporters of Ali. one of the things that Sayyidina Ali had, which unfortunately, it was the will of Allah, was that his army he couldn't trust. Because that was prophesied by the Prophet. The Prophet said, "Oh Ali, I fear how my ummah will treat you after I go. My ummah will be back to you. My ummah will curse you. My ummah will murder your offspring. My ummah will do," there's many things, zulm, that for 80, 90 years on every member in the Muslim world, Ali used to be cursed at Salatul Jum'ah. And it's not a lie, it's a fact. The one who stopped that cursing was Umar bin Abdul Aziz radiallahu anhu, when he became the leader. And I don't know if you know who does anyone know who Umar bin Abdul Aziz is? Do you know who's his grandfather? Marwan. His grandfather was the worst enemy of Islam. His grandfather was the hater of Ali. His grandfather, which Imam Suyuti has mentioned, and you can actually read it yourself. Go open the history of the Khulafa. It's in English by Imam Suyuti, the 5 Khulafa. In there, go to the side about Marwan when he goes to Imam Hassan. On the mimbar in front of Sayyidina Hassan, many times he used to curse Sayyidina Ali. And look at that, he's one of the people that started the cursing of Ali, and who stopped it? His grandson. Subhanallah. And who is his grandson? His grandson is that great wali of Allah, that when he became the leader, the first thing he did was, the garden of Fadak, the garden that was given to Fatima to Zahra. You remember that issue between when Fatima went to Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and said, "I want to inherit from this garden." Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, "You can't inherit from a prophet." Abu Bakr was right. We don't speak ill of the Sahaba. But who was the one that gave it back to the Ahlul Bayt? It was Umar bin Abdul Aziz. Umar bin Abdul Aziz's first executive order was to give it back to these people. So Ali now marches. Why does Sayyidina Ali march against the Khawarij? The Khawarij compass a city, a village. And the inhabitants of that village, the narration says, there is a man amongst them who comes running out of his house, and he's holding his trousers up, and he's extremely scared. The Khawarij have got like 1,000 men, 2,000 men with them. And they turn around to him and say, "Are you scared of us?" These were the people, who were the Khawarij? The Khawarij were the people that left the battle, that supported Ali originally. When Ali said, "I want to do the peace with Muawiya," they then called both of them kafir and they left. Their biggest enemy was Sayyidina Ali ultimately, and then Muawiya. They hated both of them. So the man that was running said yes. And one of the people recognized him and said to him, "Aren't you Abdullah, the son of Khabab bin Arad?" And he said, "Yes, I'm the son of the Sahabi." Khabab bin Arad, for those who are not aware, if you came to my Jummah khutbah, you would have learned who he was. Khabab bin Arad was the man who used to teach Umar radiallahu anhu's sister was called Fatima radiallahu anha, and his cousin was called Sa'id. Her husband, the cousin of Umar, was called Sa'id. Khabab bin Arad used to teach them the Quran. And you remember the incident when Umar comes to his sister's house, when he hears the Quran, that reading of the Quran was Khabab bin Arad. He's amongst the Jalil Sahaba. He's a Badri Sahabi. He's amongst the greats, and he is amongst those Sahaba who was the Mujtahideen. He wasn't a normal Sahabi. This was his son. And he said, "Yes, I am the son of Khabbab." So they said to him, "Why don't you narrate to us a hadith from your father?" So what does he narrate? Look at the hadith. He says, "My father said that the Prophet ﷺ said the following: there will come a time when the fitna of the one who sits will be considered preferable to the one who stands, and the fitna of the one who stands will be preferable to the one who walks, and the fitna of the one who walks will be preferable to the one who runs. So if it is possible, then try to be amongst those people who are slaughtered, and don't be the slaughterer," the Prophet said. This is a hadith indicating the coming of the Khawarij. So the Prophet said there will come a time that there will be people who will kill the Ummah. When they heard this, they apprehended Abdullah bin Khabab bin Arad, and he had a slave female servant with him, who was pregnant at that time. And they began, and they put him in shackles and chains, and they took him. Khabab bin Arad turns to them and says to them, He said, should I not tell you something which is even haram? You killing me. They went to a river, this is the Khawarij, and they cut off his head. No mercy at all. This is what Sayyidina Ali was facing, ruthless people. Then they turned around to his slave, the female servant she had, who was pregnant, and they cut open her stomach and ripped the baby out. That is how evil and barbaric, and that is why if you look at ISIS today in Iraq, and you look at them burning people and killing people, wallahi al-azim, if you compare their behavior with the Khawarij, is identical. Because the Khawarij didn't care who they were killing, to such an extent when Sayyidina Ali does fight them, and the fight happens, Sayyidina Ali humiliates them, he finishes them, but Sayyidina Ali goes in front of them on the battle of Nahwaran, and what does he say? He says, don't you know who I am? I am Ali. I am the cousin of the Prophet. He says, I am the first Muslim, he said. I am the first Muslim, I am the first male that became Muslim. Before any Sahabi, Ali was the first. There's no denial upon it. He says, don't you know my credentials? I am the one that was given the banner on Khaybar. He says, I am the one who killed more non-Muslims than all the Sahaba put together in the Battle of Badr. He says, you know what I did in Uhud? You know what I did in Khandaq? He says, do you know I am married to Fatima al-Zahra, the daughter of the Prophet. He says, my father-in-law is Rasulullah. My mother-in-law is Khadija al-Kubra. My wife is Fatima, the master of all the women in Jannah. And my sons are the masters of the youth in Jannah. He said, this is who I am. Do you know who I am? He's trying to remind them, trying to galvanize, trying to make them fear Allah, trying to put taqwa in them, but they had no fear. They said, no, they didn't care. They said, no, you are a kafir. That's exactly what they said. So when you see these people in Iran, ISIS killing people, don't say why they're so barbaric. They're just following the footsteps of the Khawarij. If the Khawarij could stand in front of Sayyidina Ali and say such a thing to Sayyidina Ali and say, we don't care who you are, you're the kafir, a'udhu billah, what do we have for them? When all of these incidents take place, Sayyidina Ali becomes extremely upset. He becomes overwhelmed, that he starts to pray to Allah for death. Sayyidina Ali gets fed up of the people, because the Kufans were known for treachery at that time. And Sayyidina Ali many times, he prays to Allah and he says, oh Allah, I pray, give me death. In one narration he says, Sayyidina Ali comes to Imam Hussain, and Imam Hussain came to his father, and Ali says, I had a dream. In the dream, I saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I said to the Messenger of Allah, oh Ya Rasulullah, don't you know the pain that your ummah is causing me? Don't you see the pain that your ummah is causing me? And the Prophet turned and said, oh Ali, do dua, pray. And Ali read the following dua, which means, oh Allah, replace them for me with someone better than them. Replace them for me with someone better than them. And replace me for them with someone worse to them than me. Give them someone worse to them than me. And Hassan said that when Ali said that, the moment he said that, he walked out of the door at Fajr and he was struck and he was martyred by Ibn Maljam, which we will discuss. Another thing that you need to understand, in this battle of Nahrawan, which took place in the 38th year of Hijri, after Hijri, in this battle, many of the Khawarij were killed. It was a deadly blow to the Khawarij. And when the Khawarij left, they then said, whatever happens, we have to seek revenge for this. So three of the Khawarij, three senior of them, one was called Maljam, one was called Al-Buraq ibn Abdullah, one was called Amr bin Al-Bakr At-Taymi. Three of them met privately in a house. Three of them then agree and say what? They said, in order for us to end this fitna and to end this tribulation, we have to kill three people. Number one, we have to kill Ali. Number two, we have to kill Muawiya. And number three, we have to kill Amr bin As. These three individuals must be killed. So they all agreed what? They all agreed that on the 17th of Ramadan, all three of them at the same time of the night, in the early morning, three of them will strike each one of these three personalities. Abdurrahman al-Maljam would strike Sayyidina Ali, Al-Buraq would strike Muawiya, and Amr bin al-Bakr would strike Amr bin As immediately when they came out for prayer. And the incident is very quickly, which I'll go through, that Ali radiallahu anhu warda had a habit, which was when he came out of Fajr, Salat al-Fajr, he never used to have any guards in front of his house. He refused to have guards. Al-Maljam realized that the best time to strike Sayyidina Ali, like Umar bin al-Khattab radiallahu anhu warda, was the time of Fajr. So Ali comes out of the door and Al-Maljam is waiting. Another point to mention before I go to that, Ali knew who his murderer was. There is narrated by many hadith that when Maljam used to be in front of him, Ali would say that he seeks my death and I seek his life. That's what Ali used to say. In another narration, Sayyidina Ali used to say, that man will kill me. And then the Sahaba would, and then another time that Ali would say, I know the person who will kill me, he's amongst us. And the Sahaba would say, tell us who that person is so we may kill him now. Ali said, how can you? And not only that, they then said, tell us now who that person is so we can destroy even his family. Ali said, that isn't Islam, it's haram. You cannot kill someone if he has not committed a sin. You see the justness there. That is adl of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu warda. So Ibn Maljam, he hides behind the door. When Ali radiallahu anhu warda comes out, he knows he can't take one-to-one. Ali says, "O people, rise, it is time for salah. O people, rise, it is a time for salah." You know, and he's walking, and when he walks, the moment he comes out of his door, Ibn Maljam strikes him. And the narration says one, that first of all Ibn Maljam injured him, and then he hit him again, and Ali radiallahu anhu warda became unconscious. And before Ali becomes unconscious, Ali shouts out really loud, he says, capture him, do not let him get free. And they eventually catch him. And when Ali radiallahu anhu warda regains consciousness, he says, who was the person that did it? And they said, Ibn Maljam, and he smiled. He smiled at it. He then said, do not mutilate his body. He said, if I die, kill him the way he killed me. But if I live, I may forgive him. If I live, I may forgive him. That is the first incident of what happens. At the same time, Muawiya comes out of the door, out of the house to pray the salah. And when Muawiya radiallahu anhu comes, Al-Buraq, he says, he comes, this person, another Persian, and he attempts to hit Muawiya, but he misses Muawiya, and he hits the back of Muawiya radiallahu anhu. And immediately the guards come, apprehend him, and they kill him. And before they kill him, he turns to Muawiya and he says to Muawiya radiallahu anhu, he said, don't you want me to tell you good news? Would you not want me to give you good tidings and good news? And Muawiya said, what is it? He said, Ali has been killed today. Ali has been killed at this moment, he's been murdered now. Why? And he gave the whole story. So Muawiya radiallahu anhu is saved. It's an attempt on his life. In Egypt is Amr bin As now. Amr bin As doesn't pray the Salat al-Fajr that day because he has his stomach pain. He sends his deputy out, the head of police, and he is killed. After he is killed, they apprehend the person, and the person then finds out he never killed Amr bin As. And Amr bin As turns around and says what? He says, the person who did this thing, apprehend him and kill him, and they killed him. Going back to Sayyidina Ali, on his deathbed, radiallahu anhu warda, when he realized that his time had come, Sayyidina Ali calls Imam Hassan and he calls Imam Hussain, and his other son called Muhammad bin Hanafiya is there too. Sayyidina Ali then speaks to his sons and he gives them the following advice. He says, I urge you to fear Allah. I urge you to fear Allah. And do not seek the world or the luxury of this dunya. Even if it becomes available to you, don't seek the dunya. And do not keep anything and do not weep for anything. Fear Allah. He says, always speak the truth. Show compassion to the orphans. Help the destitute. He says, strive for the next life. Be an opponent, be an opposition to anyone who challenges Islam and the Quran and the Sunnah. Support the one who is wronged. act upon the book of Allah, and never fear the blame of the blamers when you strive for the sake of Allah. When you strive for Allah, if people blame you, people insult you, he says never take notice of what they are saying to you. He says act upon what is in the book of Allah, and never fear the blame of the blamers when striking for the sake of Allah. Then he looked at Muhammad bin Hanifiyah, his other son, and he says, have you heard the advice that I've given to your two brothers? Muhammad bin Hanifiyah was the son of Sayyidina Ali from another woman. He was a stepbrother to Imam Hussain and Imam Hussain RadiAllahu Anhu. And he says, yes. He says, I advise you likewise. I advise you likewise, and I advise you to respect two of your brothers. They have a position which is more superior to you. They are more superior to you. They have greater rights over you. Follow them and do not decide about anything without consulting them. He then said, I advise you both. He turns to Imam Hassan and he turns to Imam Hussain. He says, I advise both of you to take care of him, for you know his father loves him a lot, meaning I love him. He then advised them and said, he continued to advise them and said, I advise you, my sons, to fear Allah, to establish the prayer on time, to pay zakat, to give that which is entitled to those who are poor, to do wudu well, to do ablution well, for there is no prayer without purification, and there is no prayer which is accepted without zakat, or that person who doesn't give zakat. I advise you to forgive others, suppress your anger, uphold your family ties, be forbearing to ignorant people, keep seeking Islamic knowledge, verily the fact before you, verify the facts before you make any decision, always read the Quran, be good to your neighbors, for I heard the Prophet say, be good to your neighbors, and the Prophet was good to his neighbors to such an extent that I thought the Prophet would add them in his inheritance. That is how good the Prophet was with his neighbors, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Sayyidina Ali said, avoid immoral actions, avoid haram. Look at the advice he's giving. What he's doing really is he's summarizing the sunnah. He's summarizing for his two sons this. And on the 21st of Ramadan, 40th year after Hijri, after an illness of 3 days, some say Sayyidina Ali was shaheed. He left this world to join Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the last thing he said on this world was the kalima. He kept reading the kalima non-stop. His leadership was for 4 years, 9 months and 6 days. That was the period of his leadership. And his body, his ghusl for his body was performed by Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain and Abdullah bin Ja'far, his nephew, the son of his elder brother Ja'far bin Abi Talib RadiAllahu Anhu. His funeral prayer was led by Imam Hassan RadiAllahu ta'ala anhu warda. And after the funeral prayer, that is the incident when the people approach Imam Hassan to request his leadership. I have a few moments because I want to, with advice from some of the brothers, we will leave the questions and answers after Isha. It's better so we don't rush it. So it gives you time to ask many questions. I want to discuss two things very quickly before we give the adhan for Salah. Imam Hassan now becomes the leader of the Muslims. Imam Hassan becomes a leader. And Imam Hassan fulfills the prophecy of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why? Because there is a hadith which is found in Bukhari, which is the following hadith. The Prophet said, سمع أبا بكر سمعت النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم على منبري والحسن إلى جنبه ينظر إلى الناس مرة وإليه مرة. Okay, what does that mean? The Prophet was on the minbar one day. This is in Bukhari, under the chapter of Manaqib, under the chapter of the book of the virtues of the Sahaba, specifically on the chapter, this is the second hadith, under the chapter of the Fadila, the virtues of Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain, found in Bukhari Sharif. The Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam, the Prophet said, what does he say? It says, سمعت على النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم على منبري والحسن إلى جنبي. Okay, what does that mean? It means the Prophet was on the minbar and Imam Hassan was on his laps, sitting on his laps on the minbar. ينظر إلى الناس مرة وإليه مرة. He would look, the Prophet would look at the people and then he would look at Imam Hassan. And then he would look at the people and then he would keep looking. And then the Prophet said what? وَيَقُولُ إِبْنِي هَذَا سَيِّدٌ. Subhanallah. The Prophet turned around and said what? He says, this son of mine is a master. Have you seen the beauty of the hadith? How the Prophet never said my grandson. Even though he was the grandson of the Prophet. Why? Because he was the son of Fatima. He was Nawasi Rasul. Sarkar ke Nawasi the. But the Prophet never called him Nawasa. The Prophet never called him my grandson. What did he say? He says, Ibni hadha Sayyid. This son of mine is a master. And he said it 3 times. Ibni hadha Sayyid. Ibni hadha Sayyid. This son of mine is a master. And then what did he say? وَلَعَلَّ اللَّهَ أَنْ يُصْلِحَ بِهِ بَيْنَ فِئَتَيْنِ مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Perhaps through him, Allah will make sulha. Allah will make peace between the 2 Muslims. Between the 2 parties of the Muslims. Imam Ibn Hajar al-Haythami, rahmatullah alayhi, who authored a book called Sawaik al-Muhlika. It's a very famous book on Aqidah, and generally it's a rebuttal to other peoples of different Aqidah. He mentions something quite unique, and I'm going to conclude with this, and I'll speak about the sulha after Isha. He says that from the 5 khulafa, who are the 5 khulafa ar-Rashid? Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali and Imam Hassan Ridwanullahu alayhim ajma'in. He says from these 5 khulafa, he says not a single one of their leadership is proven from the hadith apart from Imam Hassan. Apart from Imam, the Prophet is saying, what is Imam Ibn Hajar saying? Ibn Hajar said the first leaders is Siddiq Akbar, Umar, Uthman and Ali, these 4 khulafa. He says even though they are rightly guided imams of the Muslims, none of their leadership is proven from the hadith. None of them. He says the only one whose leadership is proven from the hadith is Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba. Is Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba's leadership that is proven directly from the nasi of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And we will look at that after Salatul Isha. So inshallah after Isha we will continue. Briefly, I only have 2 parts to discuss, which I will keep it very brief. One is the peace treaty between Muawiya and Imam Hassan radiallahu anhuma, and final part, how Yazeed became the leader, which is a few moments. And after that we will have questions and answers, and inshallah we will aim to finish well before 9 o'clock inshallah. وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. So continuing on, basically what I said was the 5th and the final leader of the Khulafa was Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba. Now he ruled, or his leadership was for 6 months approximately. 6 months. Now one of the things which is an unfortunate reality is many people do not add his name as a member from the Khulafa. People think that the Khulafa were only 4. This is historically incorrect, and it is no justice at all. Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, if you do not add his 6 months of leadership within the Khulafa, then you only have 29 years and 6 months. In other words, if you calculate the leadership of Hazrat Abu Bakr, Hazrat Umar, Sayyidina Uthman and Ali and Ramadhan al-Jum'in, if you add their leadership, it comes to 29 years and 6 months. Adding Imam Hassan becomes 30 years. Hence the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is prophesied, 30 sana, that Khulafa al-Rashida will be after me for 30 years, the Prophet said. After that will be kingship and just kings and so forth. So one of the reasons why Imam al-Hassan al-Mujtaba gave up his leadership was basically to fulfill the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Number 1. Ibn Hajar al-Haythami mentions in his Sawa'iq al-Muhrika, he mentions 2-3 points. Number one, he says that Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba didn't have to resign from his leadership. Imam Hassan could have galvanized a lot of support. Because what he did was, originally Imam Hassan had 60,000 supporters. Out of 60,000, by the time he took out all of the Khawarij, all of the Munafiqeen, all of the two-faced people, it came down to only about 11,000. As-Suyuti says 11,000. Ibn Kathir and Bidayah wal Nihaya says about 13 to 15,000 men. Imam Hassan was still saying, let's fight. He wasn't saying, I don't want to fight. But sometimes al-hikmah, wisdom, is unique. Because one of the things that Imam Hassan inherited from his grandfather was wisdom, hikmah. One of the reasons why Imam Hassan did not go out to fight, Ibn Hajar says there are 2-3 reasons. Number one, if he would have fought against the Syrians again, they would have killed all of the Ahlul Bayt. So there wouldn't have been no Sayyids of Ahlul Bayt till this day. That was a great wisdom. Number two, Ibn Hajar says that Imam Hassan participated and implemented the actions of his grandfather in Al-Hudaybiyah. Remember when the peace treaty between the Muslims, when was this in Hijri? 6 Hijri, yeah? 6 Hijri that was between the Muslims and the non-Muslims, and it was broken in the 8th Hijri. Okay, and then when the Muslims entered into Mecca was towards the end of the 8th Hijri. So Imam Hassan actually did what his grandfather did. Ibn Hajar then says that one of the things that Imam Hassan does, he fulfills the prophetic right. He fulfills the wahi of the Prophet ﷺ. He fulfills the foretelling of the Prophet that Khulafa Rashida will be for 30 years. And he abdicates his leadership to do what? It says here, let me read the hadith again to you. What did it say? It says, سمع أبا بكر سمعت النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم على المنبر وحسن إلي جنبه ينظر إلى الناس مرة وإليه مرة ويقول ابني هذا سيد. He said it 3 times. ولعل الله أن يصلح به بين فئتين من المسلمين أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. The Prophet said what? The Prophet had Imam Hassan on his laps. He said, this son of mine is a master. This son of mine is a master. This son of mine is a master. Maybe through him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make peace between the two Muslims. When Imam Hassan gave up his leadership, that was the first time in the history of Islam that the term Ahle Sunnah Wal Jammah was used. So when was the first time Ahle Sunnah, that name? Because before we were called the Jama'ah, it wasn't called Ahle Sunnah. The first time the word or the term Ahle Sunnah Wal Jammah was used was when the peace happened between Muawiya and Hassan. And what was that? He abdicated his leadership in 41 after Hijri, approximately 6 months after his honorable father Sayyidina Ali was shaheed. And he moved from Kufa back to Medina al-Munawwara. And he lived in Medina al-Munawwara until the year 49 after Hijri. He passed away in Medina al-Munawwara and he was buried in Jannat al-Baqiyah next to his mother Sayyidati Fatima salamullah alayha. The narration is that he was poisoned. Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba was poisoned by his wife. His wife was a person who received bribery from Yazeed. There are different narrations that go further than that, but wallahu a'lam. However, Yazeed offered her 100,000 dirham and offered to marry her if she would poison him. She poisoned him and the illness lasted, and on his deathbed Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba said to Imam al-Hussain, when Hussain came to him RadiAllahu Anhu warda, he said to him, don't seek leadership. This is the advice that he's giving to his younger brother. He says, maybe Allah has not put leadership with our family together. Why? Because the troubles of his father, the troubles of Imam al-Hassan. He says, don't be fooled by the Kufan people. Don't accept what the Kufan people will say to you. Beware. Imam Hassan then asked him, do you know who poisoned you? And he turned and said, yes, I know who poisoned me. He said, who was it? Tell me. Imam Hassan said, I won't tell you. He refused to tell. Can you get some water, please? He refused to tell who the poisoner was, who poisoned Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba. When he passed away, his final request was what? His final request was that he wanted to be buried with the Prophet ﷺ. He had the right, he was a Prophet's son. So he sent a request to Aisha radiallahu anha, and he asked her permission. Aisha said definitely he can be buried. However, what did Imam Hassan say before he passed away? Ridwan. What did Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba say before he passed away? He said to Imam Hussain that if by burying me next to our grandfather will result in fighting and killing, he said don't do it. Why? Why did Imam Hassan say that? Because at that time, the governor of, does anyone know who the governor of Medina was at that time? No, he was in Mecca. Go try. He was a very bad man. Anyone want to guess? Marwan. Marwan bin Hakam, the cursed, was the leader. You know Marwan? The one who's Marwan? Let me I'll share the point about Marwan because it comes to leadership later on. I already have some. Thank you very much. You could have that. So Marwan bin Hakam was the governor. He was the governor of what? So Marwan bin Hakam, when he realizes that Imam Hassan wants to be buried where? Next to Prophet, he takes his sword out. And he said, I swear by Allah, I will not allow you to bury Hassan next to the Prophet. Like he had right. I mean, who are you and who is Imam Hassan? You are the one who cursed the cousin of the Prophet. You are the one who sits on the mimbar and curses Ali. You are the one who sits on the mimbar right in front of Rasulullah ﷺ. And remember this point. You know, the Prophet is a witness against Marwan. Remember that. Because the Prophet, we believe the Prophet is alive in his grave. Don't we believe that? We don't believe the Prophet, a'udhu billah, is dead. The Prophet sees, the Prophet hears, he knows the action. That is why the ulama, even the man Ibn Taymiyyah even said that when you go to the Rawdat al-Mubarak, you should send salawat, and that is the only place that you can say Ya Rasulullah. Because you want to, why? Because he's alive in his Rawdah. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So the Prophet is a witness against Marwan. Anyway, Marwan then takes the sword out and says, if you continue, we will fight. Imam Hassan then takes his sword out. Why did we say Imam Hassan? Because Imam Hussain, because Imam Hussain has the courage and bravery of his father. Imam Hussain says, you know whose son I am? I'm the son of Ali. My father was called Haidar. My father wasn't someone small. My father is that person whose grandmother Fatima bint Aswad, Salamullah alayha, the auntie of the Prophet, the mother of Ali radiallahu anhu, the wife of Abu Talib radiallahu anhu, named him Haidar. Haidar means the lion. Imam Hussain said, you want to have a one-to-one with me? You want to have a combat? Anyway, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu was there. And he diffuses the tension. And eventually they take Imam Hassan and they bury him where? In Jannat al-Baqi. So that is what happened. Now, the sulh that happened prior to this, the peace treaty was what? Imam Hassan wrote a letter to Muawiya. Muawiya radiallahu anhu realized that as long as Imam Hassan does not give me support, there is no way that the Muslims will accept my leadership. This is one of the things that Yazeed had too. Yazeed said, not until Imam Hussain acknowledges me as a leader, the Muslims will never accept me. These are high profile personalities. So Muawiya writes back to Imam Hassan, and Muawiya says to Imam Hassan, why don't we have a peace treaty? Imam Hassan agrees to it. Some narrations say some people visited Imam Amr bin As, visited Imam Hassan in Medina and said, these are the conditions, do you agree? So Imam Hassan gives the following conditions. Number one, Imam Hassan says, I agree to give up my leadership based on this condition that you do not change the sunnah of my grandfather. He says, who is he saying this to? Muawiya radiallahu anhu. He says, number three, another point. He says, you will not seek revenge for anyone who fought against you with my father. In other words, anyone that fought you during the period of leadership of my father, you will not seek his revenge. Another point he said, you, Muawiya radiallahu anhu, will pay blood money, compensation for all of the victims of both of the battles of Camel and the battle of Siffin. The two battles. The first battle, which was Aisha on one side, Talha, Zubair, Radwanallahu Ajma'in on one side, versus Sayyidina Ali. He says all the victims that were killed in that battle on our side, Sayyidina Ali's side, you will have to compensate. You will have to pay blood money. And the ones in Siffin, where my father fought you. And this is the final condition he gave. There's many more conditions, but these are the main ones. He says that when you die, if you die, the leadership will come back to me. The leadership will come back to me. And if I am not alive, you will go to Hussein. These are the conditions that he put in the treaty. Now, what happened when this treaty was signed? Again, Muawiya radiallahu anhu agreed to pay a certain amount of compensation money every monthly or every annually to Imam Hussain. When Imam Hussain was shaheed, eventually what happened, about 53 after Hijri, on and off, 53 after Hijri, some people visit Muawiya radiallahu anhu warda in Damascus. And they said to Muawiya, why don't you, now we're coming to the last point of tonight's presentation. I'll be very quick with this, a few moments. This is about how Yazid was appointed as a successor, and then it gives us time tomorrow to begin the journey. Tomorrow will be going straight into the journey of the letter that was sent from Yazid to Walid bin Utbah. Walid was the governor of Medina at that time. Walid became the new governor, and the letter was sent to him telling him to get the bay'ah from three people: Hussein, Ibn Zubair and Ibn Umar. Make sure they give bay'ah. So the party comes to Damascus and tell Muawiya radiallahu anhu, they say, why don't you choose a successor? Why don't you appoint a successor? You don't know about life and death. Because at that time Muawiya, his injury from when he was attacked by the Khawarij, which he survived during the early morning, it still had an effect on him. So Muawiya radiallahu anhu is a type of person, if you look at his life, he's an intelligent man, very intelligent, subhanAllah. Muawiya isn't a man who rushes into things. He thinks very deep about things. So Muawiya radiallahu anhu says to the person who's asking the question, who do you think we should elect? He says, ask the people. So they go to the public in Damascus, a public gathering, and they say, Muawiya says, I feel death may be close to me. I feel I should appoint a successor. Who do you think I should appoint? All the people shout, Abdurrahman bin Khalid bin Walid. It wasn't the answer he wanted. Abdurrahman bin Khalid bin Walid, the son of Khalid bin Walid. He was a general within the Muslim armies. Muawiya didn't like this answer. It's a historical fact. Muawiya said, okay, fine. He said, I consulted, and he went away. When he went away, Muawiya then said, what? He said, by Allah, I will never make him a leader. Then his advisor, one of the advisors of Muawiya radiallahu anhu was a Christian, a very conniving individual he was, like Marwan. He then said to Muawiya, appoint your son, appoint Yazid. And Muawiya then appointed Yazid as his successor. Now Muawiya is a Sahabi radiallahu anhu, but we cannot deny a historical fact. It was a mistake. The Sahabi are not ma'soom. The Sahabi are not. Remember the first day, 4 days ago, what did we do? We went over the virtues of the Sahaba. And we discussed this, that being a Sahabi is not conditional upon amal. How do you become a Sahabi? أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ حَقًّا. The Quran says it, that you are truthful, you are on haqq. Why? Because of your iman, your faith. But this was a mistake, radiallahu anhu warda, and that mistake is between him and Allah. We don't judge him, we don't belittle him, nor can we use this as an excuse to insult him. May Allah protect us from insulting any of the Sahaba, radwanallahu ajma'in. But this was a fact. He then wrote a letter to Marwan. At that time Marwan was the governor of Medina. He He says to Marwan, galvanize the people and tell them I'm going to appoint Yazeed as my successor. Now look how Marwan's a conniving individual. Marwan stands in Medina in Masjid al-Nabawi and he says to the people, "O people, your leader Al-Amir al-Mu'mineen Muawiya, he wants to appoint a new leader. He wants to appoint a successor. And he wants to follow the sunnah of Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu anhuma, the way they appointed their leaders. And he is going to appoint Yazeed as his successor." Who is there? Imam Hussain is in the masjid. Abdullah bin Zubair is there. Abdullah bin Umar is there. All the Sahaba. Amongst them is a man called Abdurrahman bin Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu. Abdurrahman, the son of Sayyidina Abu Bakr. He is the younger brother of Aisha radiyallahu anha. He was a similar age to Marwan in age. He got up in the masjid and he said, "May Allah's la'na be upon you, O Marwan." What did he say? "May Allah's curse be upon you, Marwan." He said, "Don't use the name of my father to say that you want to choose a successor according to my father, because my father never chose his family. My father, when he was dying, he never chose a son or a relative. He chose Umar bin al-Khattab. And don't use Umar's name, because Umar never chose his own son, Abdullah bin Umar. He chose 6 Sahaba, and those 6 Sahaba chose Uthman." Do we all agree? Muawiya then says, "Arrest him." What did he say? Arrest him. Eventually, somehow he ran out of the masjid, and where does he go? He goes to the house of his sister Aisha radiyallahu anha. Because no one's going to dare to come into the house of Aisha. Sorry, Abdurrahman bin Abu Bakr. Marwan told, let me repeat it. Let me go back. Marwan said, "Arrest Abdurrahman for what he said, for being vocal and cursing him." So when the soldiers went to arrest Abdurrahman ran into the house of his sister Aisha, the mother of the believers. And Marwan then follows him, and Marwan starts to curse him outside the masjid. Outside it. Marwan has no iman. Marwan is the one who curses Ali. So who's Abu Bakr to him? If he can curse Ali, who's Sayyidina Abu Bakr? Marwan then turns around and says what? He says, "May Allah's curse be upon you, Abdurrahman. May Allah's curse be upon your fathers and your grandfathers, a'udhu billah." He then says that the verse in the Quran that was revealed about Shajara Mal'oon, the curse family tree that was revealed in the Quran, this was revealed regarding you and your fathers, a'udhu billah. When there's a verse in the Quran in which Allah curses, it's a curse about your lineage. He's saying that this verse was revealed regarding Abu Bakr, a'udhu billah, Sayyidina Abu Bakr. So Aisha could not take it any longer. Aisha then speaks out and says, "May Allah curse you, O Marwan. I am the wife of the Prophet. I swear by Allah, I heard the Messenger of Allah say that this verse was revealed regarding you and your father. And we remember when you were born to the Prophet, and your father said, pray for him. And the Prophet said, may Allah's la'na be upon you, may Allah's la'na be upon your father, and may Allah's la'na be upon his child." And the Prophet never cursed a child in his life. The only child he cursed was Marwan bin Hakam. And this is how Yazeed then became the leader. Yazeed was appointed in office, letters were sent to all governors, and all the governors agreed on this. And Yazeed became the leader. And my final part is Yazeed became the leader in Rajab, the month of Rajab, 60 after Hijri. The first thing he did was the murder of Imam Hussain, which is the 10th Friday, the 10th of Muharram, 61 after Hijri. Towards 62, he ransacked Medina al-Munawwara. We spoke about it I think yesterday, about what he did in Medina al-Munawwara. And towards the end of 63, beginning 64, he attacked Makkah al-Mukarrama, he damaged the Kaaba, and on the 14th of Rabi'ul Awwal, 64 after Hijri, he died. And he lived only about 40 something, he was in his early 40s. And he only ruled for 3 years and 9 months. That was his illegitimate rule. So that's where we finish, inshallah. And tomorrow we will continue on the journey. Do you have any questions? Yes, brother. Sorry? Yes, we accept it, but we don't accept it as Khulafa al-Rashida. You know, we have this tension or this issue, which contemporary, we have this group called Hizb al-Tahrir, HT we call it. They have this idea that Khilafah ruled for 1400 years. We know Khilafah only ruled for 30 years. It was only for, the Prophet said clear, Al-Khulafa Rashida will only be for 30 years. Muawiya is the first king of Islam. Muawiya is the first. This is mentioned by Imam Suyuti ala rahmatullah alayhi. And because he is a Sahabi, whatever he did, yes, he did make mistakes. And they're not issues which are small. But those mistakes that he did does not give us the legitimacy to attack him or insult him. Do you all remember when did we speak about Yazid yesterday? I quoted from, I don't have the book with me now, but I quoted from Sharh al-Aqaid from Imam Taftazani. And I quoted you from what Imam Taftazani says about Yazid. You remember that point? Before Imam Taftazani speaks about Yazid, he speaks about Muawiya. And in brief what he says, this is what Imam Taftazani, he's our Imam of Aqidah. He says that Muawiya is Muawiya, what is the question? Are we allowed to curse him? Can Muslims curse him? What was the view of the ulama, the mujtahideen, the salihin? He says even though Muawiya went against Imam al-Haq, Ali, he rose against Imam al-Haq, he says even irrespective of that, La yajuzu la'na, you cannot curse him. It is not permissible to curse him. Wa a'wanihi, or his supporters. You understand? So Muawiya, you are not allowed to curse, you cannot swear at him, you cannot hate him, you cannot insult him. Why? Because he's a Sahabi. Okay, he's from the Sahaba, Ridwanullah alayhim ajma'in. But Yazid isn't. And based upon that point, the ulama have clearly said, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahmatul alayhi in Fathul Bari, in clear cut, in Arabic he says in clear cut, he says Muawiya was the first king of the Muslims. Because Ameer al-Mu'mineen is a title that Umar radiallahu anhu started. So we accept him as our leader, and Imam Hassan accepted his leadership too. I mean, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu warda, you can say for anyone, doesn't have to be Sahaba. You can use that term, may Allah be pleased, for any Muslim. It's not specifically for Sahaba, it can be for any Imam, any ulama. Secondly, Yazid was born during the leadership of Uthman ibn Affan. So Yazid wasn't born during the time of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. That's the second point. Thirdly, Dr. Zakir Naik, and he says a lot of things, unfortunately, but like I said yesterday, the mistake that he made, number one is that he doesn't know Arabic, unfortunately. May Allah give him ilm, inshallah. May Allah guide him, inshallah. Because we don't hate people. We don't hate any Muslim. Even if a Muslim disagrees with us. Look, we are Sunni. If I have a man who, let's say, is Salafi, we don't hate him. We hate his aqidah, but we don't hate him. We should engage with him and try to preach him the real version of Islam. But unfortunately, he doesn't know Arabic, number one. Number two, his grave mistake is he says it's the hadith of Constantinople. There's no hadith called Constantinople. If you want to know where he gets that hadith of Constantinople from, the hadith is what? Bukhari, awwalu jayshin min ummati yaghzuna madinata Qaysara. Qaysara is Caesar city. That is the word that is used. Constantinople is not used. The only time Constantinople as a city is used is the hadith of Abu Dawud Sharif, which confirms that Abdurrahman bin Khalid bin Walid was the first leader of the first naval expedition that went to Constantinople to fight for the Muslims. So what Zakir Naik is saying, he says because Yazid is part of this army, and what does the hadith say? The hadith says that the first batch of my ummah that fight in Constantinople, the first batch of people or army that fight in my ummah in a naval expedition, Allah has forgiven all of their sins. So what Dr. Zakir Naik says is because Yazid was in that army, the hadith applies to him. Do you understand? That is the reason he says, RadiAllahu Anhu. What is our reply to that? I replied in it yesterday in detail. Briefly, one sentence or two sentences. Number one, Yazid was not in the first army. The Yazid went maybe 6, 7 or 8 army. How do we know that? He went during the campaign when Abu Ayyub al-Ansari radiallahu anhu was part of the army. And how do we know Yazid went in that army? Because that was the fight that Abu Ayyub al-Ansari passed away radiallahu anhu. And that was 49 after Hijri, 50 after Hijri. Asma Rijal, if you open any book of Asma Rijal, Tahdhib al-Kamal by Al-Mizi, Al-Tahdhib al-Tahdhib by Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, Al-Tahdhib al-Tahdhib by Al-Dhahabi. If you open any of these books on Asma Rijal, biographies of the people who narrate hadith, they all agree Abu Ayyub al-Ansari passed away, they say either 49 or 50 after Hijri. Where did he pass away? In Istanbul, Constantinople. So Yazid is not even part of the army. So how can you use that hadith to say he's a man of Jannah? It's what you call intellectual dishonesty. Yes, brother.
In the light of today's discussion, why do you disturb by some cross on the side of the Muawiya radiallahu anhu, yet when you people start making those lands up to get the Sahaba? Why do they have the Karbala to say that and so on? But at the same time, on the side of the radiallahu anhu, there's a Sahaba and hadith about the Bible just said that the Martyrdom of Imam Hussain, my understanding was that that was in the back of a camel. But once they were marching, they were asking how the being tactical is one thing, being utterly wrong and naive wasn't nowhere. You don't want to see why I got it. You understand what I'm saying? Say, and it's a hard thing to understand. Follow them, see why you say, here, you can't write like this to me. How is what you see?
The thing is, like I said to you, brother, don't open a book of history. You know, like if you open a Tabari, an example, if you open a Tariqa Tabari and you read it by yourself without any instructions from a teacher, you will go mad. You will have negative views of the Sahaba. Again, if you open any book of Asma, that's why the ulama don't advise you to open these books. You shouldn't be opening Tabari, you shouldn't be opening Asma Rijal books. You should be sitting with the scholars, the ulama, and they should be giving you guidance. The guidance, the framework, what we do is, this is the framework. What is the rule? The rule is any Sahabi, whoever it may be, even if he spent 1 second in the Sahaba of the Prophet, he's not ma'soom. No Sahabi is ma'soom. That's not our aqidah. The Shia have aqidah that say that they are ma'soom, the Imams. We don't believe this. We only believe the Prophets are ma'soom. The Anbiya are ma'soom. Apart from that, anyone else can do khata. Even Ameer Muawiya radiallahu anhu, even after he did all the guna he did, because he's a human being, I do guna, you do guna, okay? After what he did in the Battle of Siffin, the question to us, does that take him out of being a Sahabi? No, he doesn't. So even whatever he did against Sayyidina Ali, how he rose against Sayyidina Ali, and it was wrong. The ulama are clear. Irrespective of what he may have done, whatever the niyyah was, we don't want to get involved with that. The question is, after doing all of that, does that make him a less of a Sahabi? No, it doesn't. Does that take him out of the fold of being a Sahabi? No. Does that allow you and me to insult him? No, it doesn't. Are we allowed to curse him? No, a'udhu billah. إِذَا ذُكِرَ الصَّحَابِ فَأَمْسِكُوا. The hadith applies to him. The Prophet, you see, the Prophet has precedence over everyone. So it doesn't matter what he did. We go back to the Prophet. The Prophet said what? إِذَا ذُكِرَ الصَّحَابِ فَأَمْسِكُوا. When you hear my Sahaba, hold your tongue. Hold on to your. So because Muawiya is from the Sahaba, Mughira is a Sahabi, Amr bin As is from the Sahaba, and Uqba bin Amr, he's a Badri Sahabi, he is a Sahabi. All of these did fight against Mawla Ali Karamallahu Ta'ala Wajhul Kareem. It's not a lie, you can't hide it. However, even fighting against Sayyidina Ali, does not mean they are not Muslim, number one, and does not take them out of being Sahaba. The rules still apply to them. We must love them, we should praise them, and whatever the ikhtilaf, whatever happened, whatever the reason was for Hazrat Muawiya to do what he did, he will be questionable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's between him and Allah. Say about that. It's not between you and me. Yeah, but even being a rebel, the word in Arabic is baghi. Baghi means rebel. That's the Arabic term used. But that doesn't mean kafir. A baghi is not a kafir. He's still a Muslim. Agar koi aadmi baghut kare, he's not a kafir. He's still a Muslim. If a Muslim, the only thing that makes, remember this point, the only time your family lineage breaks, Ala Hazrat Fazil Barelvi Rahmatullah alayhi said in his Fatawa Ridwiya, it's something quite unique which the modern day Barelvi should really listen to and follow. They should really listen to it. Ala Hazrat said, you find a Sayyid, but his Aqeedah is not from Ahle Sunnah Wal Jammah. What is the ruling towards him? Ala Hazrat said, Ta'zeem to his wajib still. Because of the blood that he has in him. Because he's from Ahlul Bayt. Even if he's a Shia, even if he's a Wahhabi, doesn't matter. Because he's min Ahlul Bayt, Ta'zeem to him is wajib, because the Quran says it. Okay? The only time the ta'zeem does not become wajib, and the only time that he becomes a ghair sayyid is when he becomes a kafir, ma'adallah ta'ala. When you become a non-Muslim, in the laws of mirath, inheritance, if you study the books of fiqh, they say that when you become a non-Muslim, if you become a non-Muslim, no one can inherit from you. Your kids cannot inherit from you. Okay, or you cannot inherit from a non-Muslim. So if a person becomes a Muslim, he cannot inherit. So it doesn't matter what the Sahaba do. The word Baghi does not take them out of the fold of Islam, nor can we use that. What I've done for you, I could have done it. I could have been very narrow-minded and given you all the narrations which are wrong. But I try to keep, what I want to do is keep as academic as possible, give you the real image of what happened, but within the framework of Islam. So we should not, in any circumstance, my brother, any circumstance, koi sahabi ka zikr kare, you do it with goodness. Do not do it with any illness or any evilness. Any more questions at all? Yes, my brother. Muawiya appointed him because he was cousins. They were related to his father. Like Marwan was the cousin brother of Uthman. Marwan's father was called Hakim. Hakim was the brother of Affan, Sayyidina Ali, Sayyidina Uthman's father. Marwan was the first cousin to them on one side, and also Muawiya was the cousin too. Why? Because Muawiya is the son of Abu Sufyan, and Abu Sufyan was first cousins to Uthman's father. Anything else at all? I think we conclude inshallah. Tomorrow inshallah tomorrow we begin the journey. So tomorrow will be more again interesting, and inshallah alhamdulillah 5 years have gone now, alhamdulillah. So jazakallah khairan for everyone for coming. I know it's very hard to come for 5 years, and I really appreciate those who have come, and may Allah reward you. There's no question that we're about 9 minutes over time, which I'm sure you don't mind. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا مولانا محمد وبارك وسلم وسلم عليه. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, put into our lives and put into our hearts the love of the Ahlul Bayt, the Sahaba al-Karam and the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Oh Allah, bless us during the days of Ramadan, during the days of Muharram. Oh Allah, give us the ability to follow in the footsteps of Imam Hussain and to benefit from the leadership and the wisdom and the guidance of Imam Hussain and the Ahlul Bayt. Oh Allah, give us death on the iman of the love of the Ahlul Bayt and the Sahaba Radwanallahu alayhim ajma'in. And oh Allah, make these two people, these two groups, the Sahaba and the Ahlul Bayt, as our ideal role models. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sallam.